Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Speaking the Truth About Money with Martin Coward and Joy the Wise Woman. I am both Martin Coward and Joy the Wise Woman, and today I will be interviewing ourselves because I'm going solo, and I'm so excited because I had a major breakthrough in who I am in the world and what my purpose is, and how to articulate that purpose in a clear and meaningful way in the last few weeks. And it just became very clear to me that I'm a coach that helps people get into their zone of genius because that's what I do. And I never had heard myself framed that way until my coach told me, "Oh, Martin, I see what you do. You help people connect to their zone of genius." And I was like, that's who I am. That's what I do. And that's how I help people. And I found my purpose. And when I got into my zone of genius, I call it heart space. That's another name for it. There's a lot of names for our zone of genius. It could be called heart space. It could be called the kingdom of heaven. It could be called the quantum field. It's in that zone of genius where we're in the moment of the present moment. We are in the now. We have let go of the past. We let go of our worries. We've let go of all those negative energies so we can get present to the moment where we're most powerful to create what we want to create in the world. Because we have those energies, but we've got to be able to let go of things, negative energies, largely the negative energies that are coming up from the past, in order to get into that zone of genius. And today I want to talk about three things that we can all do, that I do, to connect you to your zone of genius right away. So the first one is really about how we start our day. How we start our day, experts say that what we do in the first 7 minutes of our day can set the day. It sets our vibration, it sets our energy, it sets our frequency for the day. And I can say for myself, if I start my day on my cell phone looking for what I got to get done, I'm not starting my day in my zone of genius. I'm starting in my day and trying to get my way. I think I got to get this done. I got to get that done. And the reality is, the part of me that's going to do all the doing is my genius, is the creator within me, is that life force within me. So if I start my day by connecting with that, getting familiar with that, getting that known, then all of a sudden I'm in a different perspective. I'm in a different zone of genius. And what happens is, and so we start our day, and I always think, create a morning practice, and I teach that to all my clients, is how to have a morning practice that you enjoy, that feels right for you. And the first thing I always suggest people start their day is do something that's just that you enjoy. Mine is, I really love coffee. I used to own a coffee shop, and I love coffee. And lately, I've been having this wonderful mushroom coffee. I don't know if you've ever tried that, but I just love it. It's delicious. So I start my first 10 minutes of the day. It's just me feeding my dog, you know, making my coffee, just and shift. I can just and just being grateful for the fact that I've got a nice home, I got a nice place to live, I got a nice dog, I've got a great cup of coffee, and I'll just go get my coffee and I'll just sit and be still and listen and wake up. And then I might do some spiritual reading. I'm reading something. I'll listen to a spiritual teacher that I like. And then I'm going to take a meditation. Then I'm going to slow down. I'm going to have a 20-minute meditation. And I call it a power hour. And now I include in that power hour working with my team in Africa. And we get together collectively into our zone of genius to work for a couple of hours. So I try to align everything in my morning, in my first part of my day. I make that my priority to open my heart, quiet my mind, be still and listen for the voice of that genius, the voice of that intuition. Another way of looking at it is the zone of our intuition. There are lots of different words. Some people call it God, some people call it creator, some call it people intuition. Some people call it reality as it is. It's just stepping into that place of nothingness, which the Buddhists call it, emptiness, as Jesus called it, where nothing has yet been created, so we can create it. That's our zone of genius. So if you make that your first priority of your day, when you get knocked out of your zone of genius, because we all will be, we'll be triggered. We'll get a bill from the Internal Revenue Service telling me they're going to foreclose on something if I don't send them some money. That can get me right. Fortunately, that doesn't happen too much these days. But when I was facing some difficult challenges a few years ago, I lived in misery because I was just bombarded with things that I couldn't do anything about, and I thought I should be something doing about them. So we all get taken away, but still, if I get a letter from the IRS, it triggers those old memories, and I will definitely go into a pity party and come out of my zone of genius. So what I have to do is I have to get back into the zone of genius, and that's what I want to talk about next. What can you do throughout the day when you find yourself disconnected from your zone and you want to get back into it? Well, the first thing I will tell you is to slow down, to speed up. The zone of genius is space. It's spaciousness. That's why Jesus called it the kingdom of heaven, because it looked like the heavens. It looked like space. And our zone of genius, our genius is that spaciousness. So it needs to be space. So we got to get our bodies and our minds back into alignment. We need to slow down, because we're not going to go that. The human wants to get there faster than the speed of sound. We're moving, we're evolving very quickly. We're not aware of it, but we are. And we're not going to get there any faster because we want to get there faster. I'm not going to manifest this project in Africa any faster than it's going to manifest. But I can make it happen faster if I let go of my resistance to it happening at the time it wants to happen. It's taken us almost 14 billion years to get here on planet Earth. So let's just let go of the idea that we're going to make it happen any faster. So we're going to slow down to get into alignment. I've been practicing it with eating recently. I eat so rapidly that the food is gone before I've had a chance to realize it is. So I've been with an intention saying, okay, I'm going to slow down our eating to get into eating in my zone of genius. And what I have discovered, which we're going to talk about the third step, which is to turn everything into an opportunity to get into your zone of genius. I've turned eating into an opportunity to get into my zone of genius. And I'm enjoying my food. I'm enjoying the moment. I'm enjoying the whole experience of eating, because I have made a conscious intention to just slow it down. And what I find too is when I've slowed down, like, oh, I got to get this lunch done because I got to get back to work. What I find is if I let that ridiculous idea go and slow down long enough to enjoy my lunch, enjoy my break, I'm sitting there and all of a sudden my zone of genius opens and I'm creating my afternoon from an entirely different place before. Because I'm creating my afternoon, I'm designing my afternoon from my zone of genius. And I might very quickly say, I really don't need to do Joy, my intuition, Joy the wise woman. She's like, actually, I don't want to do that this afternoon. I want to go to the gym instead. That's what happened today. It was like, what we're going to do when we finish up this podcast? This is my zone of genius, by the way. I love doing, but it wasn't when I first started. I've been doing lives since before the pandemic. Actually, I started them in the pandemic. Going live here every day, actually. And I go back and look at some of those videos, and I wasn't all that. I certainly wasn't a master at doing this. But we become a master by practice. You might be a master violin player, but you probably weren't a master violin player in your zone of genius when you first picked up the violin. It probably sounded pretty strange. But through practicing your unique abilities, you become a master at playing the violin. You become a master at podcasting. You become a master at coaching. You don't have to make everything you do. You're not going to make everything. You're not going to be a master at everything you do, but you can enjoy it. That's what I'm talking about. You can enjoy it. You can enjoy watching. Like for example, I'm a great cook. I'm a chef. I love cooking. I'm definitely, when I'm in the kitchen cooking dinner for me and my husband, I am definitely in my zone of genius. Now, if someone doesn't like to cook, it's not going to be. But I'm also not someone who just loves to clean up the kitchen. But what I've discovered is that I make cleaning up the kitchen an opportunity to get into my zone of genius. I actually kind of enjoy the task of cleaning up the kitchen. So it's a choice. Do I want to clean up the kitchen kind of begrudgingly as a task? I got to get this done. Or do I want to say, wait a minute, I want to be in the moment right now. I've only got so many hours I'm going to be on this earth as Martin Coward, the human being, the human. So why not make the best of this moment, of every moment, by getting into my zone of genius? And that's the third thing. Turn everything into an opportunity to get into your zone of genius. And when we do that, we have the ability to really enjoy ourselves in the moment and to love that moment. I certainly do that when I go to the gym. I turn that into an opportunity to enjoy every single thing that I'm doing in the moment. And that's what the zone of genius is. Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about the power of now. He's also wrote a book a few years ago, back in 2006, called A New Earth. I think it's probably sitting right here because it's almost like my Bible. Right here, A New Earth. Awakening to your life purpose. The power of now. This is your zone of genius, by the way. When you get into the moment, when you get into the now, you're in your zone of genius. And that's where you're most powerful. That's where we're the most creative. That's where we have the most fun. So again, let me recap, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some different things that I do during my workday and things that you might want to consider doing in your work, particularly when it comes to your team. Because we all want to create a team. So again, I'm going to we start our day with priority. We make it our priority when we start our day, not to get on with the tasks that our mind's telling us we got to get done. We slow down and speed up, which means we take a pause. When I find myself frustrated with trying to get something finished up, I've gone from enjoying it to a task. I'll say, okay, Martin. Joy will say to Martin, you know what? Slow down, take a pause, turn the computer off, go take a break, maybe go take a nap, take a walk, go do a sound bath. Do something to let go of this negative energy force that's come up. Maybe you're feeling some frustration because you can't get something done as quickly as you like, or you're not learning something as quickly as you like. It happened to me the other day when I was back on doing some TikTok videos, and I haven't done one in a while. I was found myself getting frustrated with all the tech. And I said, Martin, just relax, slow down, spend some time with it, have some fun with creating the video. It's all intuitive. Intuition. It's intuitive. Everything today is intuitive. It's all intuitive means it comes to us. Look at the energy from it. And I found myself clicking on the right buttons, doing the right things, and I was making the video. But I went through a process of having to let go. My fear came out. Oh, I can't figure this out. I can't do it. And sure enough, I said, I got to let the fear go. I can't, as long as I've got the fear that I can't do this, it's standing in my way of being able to do it. And as soon as I became conscious that it was just my fear of not doing it standing in my way, I said, okay, let the fear down. I can do this. It's fun to do it. I've done it before. I enjoy doing it. Just let myself do it. Let yourself do it. So that's just it. Slow down to speed up and turn everything into an opportunity to get into your zone of genius. Now, that's on the individual basis. But what if you're an entrepreneur or a business leader and you've got a company to run, you've got a team to manage? How do you practice this with them? Well, I'll tell you what I do. I meet with my team. They're all in Africa. They all live in Nairobi. My business partner, Abba Henry. We meet every single morning from 6:30 to 9 o'clock to get into our zone of genius and work together. We have what I would call a zone of genius co-working sessions. And I will tell you that is such a game changer for me in our business, because I'm able to hear them and talk to them and listen to them. These brilliant queer African men who've been living in their zone of genius for decades. Not these particular ones, but because of the homophobic culture of Africa, where unemployment is just impossible. Unemployment is the biggest problem. It is difficult, and they have had to get into their zone of genius to be able to withstand to survive the external circumstances that the homophobic culture, which has created some very hostile living environments, like in countries like Uganda, where they have the kill the gays law, where they can actually kill you. Your family can kill you. Do you know that your family in Uganda by law can kill you to save their family name? Kill you. And there's not going to be any repercussions for it. Or you can go to jail for the rest of your life, where you're going to be tortured in jail for being gay. And that's worse than death. And that, because of that is for them to survive. They've had to tap into their zone of genius, and they found themselves in a friggin' desert in the middle of nowhere with very little food and water to eat, surrounded by a ton of homophobic Africans who want to kill them and torture them or rape them. They have had to tap into their zone of genius to survive. And I call them diamonds. I call these brilliant African men and women diamonds, because like a diamond under pressure, it gets more brilliant, it gets more resilient, and more powerful. And when you open that up and you give it freedom, you bring that zone of genius, which is what I've discovered, bringing this zone of genius into the light, into the opportunity to be free. I'm amazed every day at what I learn from them. And you are too. So now, and we've got a new project, and I want to talk a little bit about that for a second. We have got a new program coming out. It's called the LGBTQ Heart Space Coaching Program, Community Coaching Program. And it's a place for us to connect in our zone of genius with Africans, queer Africans from Africa, with Western Africans and our allies, to change the world from living in our zone of genius. It's a coaching program where I'm going to be coaching and teaching people how to live in that zone of genius. How do we connect with each other so we can collectively live in that zone of genius and change the world to make the world better, safer, more loving, more peaceful, more prosperous, more abundant for everybody to enjoy. That's operating from our zone of genius. That's operating from our deep intuition that is so powerful. And we all have it. One of my favorite examples of someone who found their zone of genius very young is Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey and I are the exact same age. She's actually a few months older than me, 8. She was born in January of 1954, and I was born in September of 1954. Both of us were born in the deep South. She was born in rural Mississippi, a very poor Black girl, African-American woman, girl. She suffered some very difficult circumstances. I was a fairly privileged white man But look what she's accomplished in her lifetime by getting plugged into and connecting to her zone of genius. That power within her is, we all have that zone of genius within us. If we're just willing to let go of our own need to get what we want and our fear and our circumstances, to tap into that zone of genius. And God knows what she's done. But we all, I'm trying to tell you is we all have that within us. We all have that field beyond the mind where everything is created. And it's right there within our own heart. The zone of genius lives within our heart. That's why we call it heart space. So when I had this kind of like V8 moment where, people don't understand heart space too well, but everybody on the Western world understands zone of genius. So I'm feeling really good these days as I'm changing my brand a little bit to be the zone of genius expert, to be the zone of genius coach. It's exactly the same thing as heart space, but it's easier to have a conversation about. It's easier to market, easier to brand, because everybody understands that idea of being in that zone of genius and wants to be there. And I want you to be there. My mission is to get everybody on the planet into their zone of genius, aware of their zone of genius, so they can connect with that zone of genius where life is so much more fun and more exciting and productive. We all have that within us. Ask yourself, what are you holding on to? And this is the thing, people. And this is why I feel like I am uniquely qualified to help you get into your zone of genius. And it's called shadow work. It's our shadow. We all have a lifetime of traumas. God knows if you grew up queer in Africa, you've had some real traumas, and you've had to get into your zone of genius to survive. But we've all had traumas. And on the Western side, we've had traumas in our life that have created these negative energies we've repressed deep into our bodies. And we call those negative energies our shadow. And we all know that shadow. We all know the voice of that shadow. That voice of the shadow is that part of us that's always attacking us and attacking the world. It doesn't like anything. It's always judging everything. It just makes us feel bad. And we're never good enough for that guy, that voice in our head, the voice of the shadow. So we have to learn to let that voice go. We have to learn to let go of those negative energies that come up from that voice. And those are the parts we don't like about ourselves. The shadow, we don't like that part of ourselves too well, so we hide that part. Because we behave sometimes from our shadow that's not in ways that are not particularly attractive. We might manipulate people. We might lie to people. We all are capable of that. And what we do is when we're behaving out of shadow, it's just because we're scared that we're going to lose something we care about and we value. So we have to learn to let go of those shadow energies for what they are, because underneath that is a infinite source of power, unconditional love energy, sitting right underneath that shadow. And once we love and accept that shadow energy, that dark energy, and let it have its life. It just wants to come up. If we've been holding it deep within ourselves for so long, it just wants to have a life, and let it go. And it's going to be a little painful. It was probably painful going in. It's why it got lodged. That's why the trauma was painful. And it's going to probably be a little pain. That's the thing. You're feeling the fear of that dark energy wanting to be released. So we have to love it back into life. And as soon as we shine the light of love on those dark shadow energies, it doesn't understand love. It just goes away. It just disappears. The shame, the depression, and then we're back into our zone of genius. And as a master of 20 years of doing shadow work with the Mankind Project as a volunteer leader, I'm a master at that trait, at that skill of helping you see your shadows, that you see what you're holding on to that's keeping you stuck. I promise you're holding on to something that's not true. If you find yourself worrying, ask yourself, what are you worrying about? What I find is that when I'm worrying about something that's never going to happen or might never happen. It rarely happens. I'm worrying about an illusion of something that doesn't exist. So let it go. And when you let that go, those negative energies will go out with it. And what you're going to be left with is emptiness, space, to create a world beyond your wildest imagination. Because when we let go of those negative energies that are blocking our zone of genius, they're standing in our way, we're free to create whatever world we want to. We let go of our fear of money. Most of us were, let's go to money for a second. Most of us were so traumatized, rich or poor. If you were rich, your parents told you, I'll give you a nice car if you make good grades. If you make grades, I'm going to take your car away. That's traumatizing. That's using money as a weapon. So many of us were traumatized by money in this culture. And just know that. So often we're triggered by money things that take us out of our zone of genius. So the trick is to say, okay, what am I traumatized about? What negative energies are coming up there that are reminding me of a past trauma where money was used as a weapon of reward and punishment? And allow those traumas, allow those negative energies to surface and come to life. And you're going to be pleasantly surprised at what's underneath that shadow. What's on the other side of that? What is a shadow? The shadow is the shadow of light. You are the light of the world. I am the light of the world that's creating everything that ever is and ever will be. And the way we humans operate is we hit up against these shadow energies that are challenging opportunities to grow and expand and create something bigger. That's what it is. And that's what the zone of genius is. It is that place where we're operating at our maximum, at our highest potential. But we have to let go of those things, those energies, those negative energies that are blocking us from being able to see it and experience it within our own lives. So that's what I've got for you today. And I want to tell you about, I'm going to leave you a little teaser. It's not quite ready, but Monday we're going to be allowing, we have a program coming up on November 14th. It's called The Hero's Journey to Your Zone of Genius. And registration, it's a free event. It's a 5-day free event. But you're going to have an opportunity to go in and surrender these. I'm going to guide you through a process where you can actually see what these obstacles are, these negative energies are, these shadows are, so you can let them go. And you're going to learn who you really are, that you're not this worthless piece of nothing that your ego keeps telling you are, that's always attacking. Your shadow's always telling you you're not good enough. And you're going to discover you got everything you need right here within your own heart to create whatever you want. So you can let go of that lie of not being good enough and know you have all the power within yourself. The second thing you're going to learn is how to let go of all that noise and that confusion in your mind, trying to figure out who you are and why you're here. Because we're going to show you how to let go of all that so you can find your purpose in life. So at the end of these 5 days, you're going to know exactly who you are and why you're here. You're going to have a purpose. And the third thing you're going to get from this journey is a very simple daily practice that you can implement every single day to get into your zone of genius. And that's what you're going to get by attending this course with me for an hour a day for 5 days and do some simple homework. And at the end of that 5 days, you are going to know exactly who you are with all the superpowers of the creative of the universe and a simple daily practice that you can follow to get into that for yourself. And it's free. That's amazing. It's going to be free. It's going to be November 14th for that week, 5 days. And the registration is coming out on Monday. So when the podcast of this gets released and the video gets released, the edited version of this, we'll put that link for you into the show notes so you can sign up and register for this wonderful, amazing 5-day journey with me. I'd love to take you on it. And there's going to, when you click on the link for the registration, you're going to see a wonderful video, hopefully an inspiring video, to let you know why I am so passionate about doing this free workshop. I am passionate because my mission is to bring everybody into the world, into this zone of genius, into your heart space, collectively, because I believe if just imagine if everybody in the world was living from their zone of genius, what would that world feel like? Where everyone was contributing to make the world better from their zone of genius, from their love, from their heart, from that creative genius. And that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm offering this free 5-day, because I'm good at it. I can help you. And I love doing it. And I'm good at it. And just imagine, my vision is to have everybody on the planet living and operating and working from their zone of genius. So until then, I'm going to encourage you to just find me on LinkedIn or Facebook as Martin Coward. Send me a direct message. Say you want to get to know me. I'd love to get on a phone call with you and just get to know a little bit more about you. How you're trying to save the world. My market is LGBTQ plus our allies. That's what the plus means. Business leader, change agents, and influencers. How can we get together to support each other to make a better world? And if you're interested, I'm interested in talking to you. I don't care how successful you are so far at it. I want to help you become more successful at it. I want to help you get into your zone of genius so you can be more successful in making that impact you're trying to make. Okay? So that's what I got for you. Thank you for tuning in today. I love being solo. I love being with you to share some of my wisdom. I hope it was helpful. And in the meantime, may love and prosperity prevail. Thank you so much for joining me today.